And welcome on in to WagerWeekly.com, your daily update video for a Monday, September 11th. And of course, all our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody affected by September 11th, 22 years later.
Wow.
We celebrate today and remember today, of course. And tonight, of course, we'll head to MetLife Stadium. Very appropriate to be in New York in prime time tonight. It'll be all focused on New York in New York City tonight, as the Bills come to town, two New York teams in New York on a day that New York will never forget. So we'll talk a little bit more about your Monday night game. Paul Nolan joins me as he does each and every week. Mr. Nolan, a week one almost in the books, a full Sunday slate now in the books. First of all, how are you? And then we'll talk about what we saw yesterday.
Well, first thing, again, prayers to, that day, and everyone who lives here in New York will never forget where they were. Really, no one will ever forget where they were, but boy, just getting down there on Bucket Brigade for 3 days as a simple volunteer, really contributing next to nothing. I just have the most love and respect for the men who stayed there for months and months and months, and they wrecked their lungs. And God bless you all. And I hope you, I hope you're in good health. The people who have survived and were part of that cleanup. Yesterday. It was the good, the bad, and the ugly for me. Our free picks on the show, and that's all on the website still. We're not making this up. We did really well on our free picks when we did them on Thursday and Friday. If you remember the Thursday night game, we had Detroit, and I'm not trying to toot our own horn, but we had a good, solid win there. We had Atlanta on the Friday show. We had Cleveland on the Friday show, and we talked about the diaper game of the week where you have to pinch your nose and bet it. It was Tennessee. And we didn't pull the trigger on it. We said it's more of a stay away game. We did well, but overall for the weekend, I ended up having not a terrible day, but my main games ended up being for the week: Detroit, Atlanta, Cleveland, and I had that ultimate stand. I was going to say I had Pittsburgh and New England. I still feel like I should have won the New England game.
For sure, you should have.
Yeah, I mean, they gifted them the game, and they just thoroughly did anything they wanted. The coaching was really impressive, and you saw the new coordinators in Philly kind of struggle with O'Brien and the relationship he has with Belichick, and what they did defensively as well. I was making a joke to my brother. I'm like, I should have won the Pittsburgh game. He goes, How the hell you see you won the Pittsburgh game? I'm like, I should have used San Fran. So like, I'm like, that was just a bad game. And so sometimes you take the haircut like a man, you move on, but it wasn't terrible. It was 3-2 for the week, 2-2 yesterday. But I really still feel like I want that New England game back. But overall, I really liked where my lines were set. I liked in reviewing what I was at. I liked my lean games. I like the fact that week one is always such a topsy-turvy event. So I feel real good about this week coming in because I think we're going to catch some really good values. And there's some values on the board right out of the gate, just based on historical, just the stuff about instinctively now. Like when we talk about it before we got on the air, like, teams that the public pounded and won, like Tennessee. By the way Tennessee covered that game was comical. Do you see that? With like a couple minutes left, they kick a field goal down by 4. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, there was a couple of those kind of like, what are you doing? We can get into a lot of what we saw yesterday, but like overall, my whole feeling on week one yesterday was like, either some of these teams need to do more in the preseason. I know the preseason isn't the preseason anymore, but my God, some of this looked like I didn't know if I was what I was watching. It looked worse than amateur football, right? I mean, it was like, what am I watching here?
At times it looked like USFL. I mean, that's the thing. Nobody wants to lose a guy in preseason anymore. And I just at some point, what if they, it's like, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to put our first team against your third team. We're going to forget about the lines, forget about the odds. There's got to be a way they could do this better to get some game speed. I don't even know what the answer is, but I still don't understand why they won't let them have bigger practice squads and more freedom to, or even expand the rosters just a little bit, especially with the extra games. And I still don't understand why they can't have like a taxi squad that's bigger and and helps develop more players within the system. So when guys have to step in, it's not as disjointed.
So before we started recording, obviously, we were talking about looking back on yesterday, which I think the audience would enjoy us doing it on the show. So let's just do a little bit of it. When you look at the where the money went and where the ticket counts were, not the ticket counts as much, although we do look at that obviously. But when you look at the money, you mentioned Atlanta. Atlanta obviously stands out. 81% of the money closed on, 19% on Carolina. Carolina obviously now number one draft picks in their first game. I believe now 1-17 against the spread. Yeah. Atlanta 24-10 wins by 2 touchdowns with 81% of the money. But you thought maybe it was a tad misleading.
Well, I mean, I had Atlanta when I bitch and moan like a baby about not covering the New England game. I want to be real about it and just admit that, like, look, I thought Atlanta was the better team. They were able to do what they wanted, especially in crucial time. And Young did look like a rookie. He looked out of sorts at times. And Atlanta statistically did not dominate this game. Was the better team. I'll take the win. But when you see other games where the public is on it and the sharps were on it, and then it wins and people put big money on it and they cover, Atlanta next week really won't be a great value. Next weekend when you look at where it's going. I mean, there's going to be a little something, but unfortunately they're playing a team that also got had a blowout win. They're going to get a lot of love, no pun intended, in the media this week. And
so will he.
Yeah, and we'll see that there'll be a little bit of an overreaction. So both of these teams kind of offset each other a little bit. But I think Green Bay will probably get a little more love in this situation because they are such a marquee brand. There are some other values, though, like, there are teams like Seattle. I know that Seattle got money last week. Public played them. Meanwhile, they can't beat the Rams ever, right? They always struggle with them. And they got put behind the woodshed. And now they get a game this week where I think there'll be an overreaction about how bad Seattle is. The public was on them. They got embarrassed. People are cursing, this guy sucks. Geno Smith's the same old Geno. And they're going to go haywire to the opposite side of the spectrum, and they're going to overreact going against them this week. So I do feel like we might early on catch some value. And this is just teaser bets against a Detroit team that we had, by the way, who won in national television, prime time against, the face of the NFL, the Super Bowl champs in Arrowhead. Did I say Arrowhead? In Arrowhead, where, it's football royalty. So I really feel like we're going to catch some real value, and it's going to be like, as we call them, the diaper games. You got to pinch your nose and get on Seattle early on this week, because I think that line's going to come down. I got it at 5.5 this morning, and I do think that line is going to drop. And I don't know if you've seen it recently, but
I mean, Circa. How does Circa open that game at 6? BetUS has opened it at 2.5 and moved it, and now it's moved to 5.5 there. Circa opened it at 6, it's now moved down to 5.5. Your total is at 51 in that Seattle-Detroit game. So, again, I don't know what these lines are that BetUS puts, but I think we have to start waiting up for BetUS to put these lines up and then nail them right as they come out.
Without a doubt. I know. Well, unfortunately, at 3 a.m, when I took a shot at it, the limit was $100. It's like it's almost like they're asking the sharpest bettors to come in and set their lines for them. So, I mean, it's a ridiculous line. And you saw it elsewhere too. Westgate opened at 3. DraftKings 2.5, didn't they?
On the Detroit game?
Yeah.
So, 3. Westgate opened it at 3. Obviously moved at 5.5. DraftKings 2.5. Obviously now 5.5. FanDuel opened it at 3, 5.5. So obviously you see big money on the reaction to Detroit on those. I mean, Circa was the only one who opened it even close to where it is, which they opened it at 6.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Derek Stevens and the guys over there seem to be a lot sharper on their overnight opening lines.
Yeah, they're starting to get monster money. They're really known as the big boy on the street now, so they're really doing a phenomenal job. So those are some good values out of the gate. Just reading lines and just knowing the way that how fickle the mob is, my friend. To take a quote from Gladiator, the mob is fickle, my brother.
Yeah. So looking at yesterday again, some more things. Obviously, Baltimore 25-9 covered easily over Houston. I was shocked to see more money on Houston there. I guess they thought, as we said on the show, they thought the 9.5 was too much for a week one. Obviously, one of the big standout surprises, and I don't know if you say you're surprised, not surprised. I guess you have to be surprised at $250 million for 5 years in the ineptitude of Joe Burrow. I understand the injury, but still, 3 points against Cleveland.
Listen, go easy now. Cleveland was my best bet this week. Well, you're right. No, but this Cleveland defense is completely vicious, and he did not look right. He didn't have any velocity on his deep balls. Every time he dropped back in the pocket, I had no fear that he was going to get it over the top. I just felt like that, he just wasn't ready to play. I almost feel like at that point, if he's still hurting and aching, why even rush it back? But I guess the way they're seeing it is they're going to get a maximum effort from their full team. He's going to get his reps, get his timing back, and he should be better this week. And I think there's a team that will see an overreaction, against, oh my God, Cincinnati sucks. And, Baltimore was, they covered the spread. So there's another game that I really think Cincinnati is going to be a better value. When I saw that opening line, I thought I caught a couple twos out there, which I missed. I didn't get to bet them. I still think they could probably 3.5 is probably a pretty good number because, Baltimore looked out of sync because Houston's defense looked phenomenal to me. Houston's defense was absolutely brilliant, to say the least.
D'Amico Ryan's no surprise there.
Yeah, we're going to find value in them later in the year. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. One of my big surprises was Minnesota. Again, Kirk Cousins. Here come the Vikings. Everybody expecting a decent year, and they lay an egg in week 1 and lose to Baker Mayfield on the road.
Yeah. Baker's such a character. What did I say to you in last week? I'm like, when Baker's got all eyes on him and it's him against the world, he's a world beater. Once people expect him to do well and play well or or be remotely serviceable, he just, he shits the bed. It's just the way it is. Another example, I really wouldn't be surprised if we see, Tampa, they off that win, cover, I should say, and win. And then the Bears getting pummeled. The Bears should be a value this week. It's just the way this game works. The highs versus the lows, lows versus the highs.
Yeah. Any other surprises for you in week 1? Obviously, San Francisco, Pittsburgh. Everybody was talking about Pittsburgh. 80% of the money was on Pittsburgh. Kenny Pickett, week 1, Pittsburgh. Never was a game.
Tomlin, home dog, Tomlin, blah, blah, Pickens, blah, blah. Yeah, okay.
I had people at the sports book coming up to me telling me Pittsburgh was their play. Pittsburgh was the play. I mean,
every wise guy I know, D, had it. Every sharp player I know had him, including me. And I feel like a dunce. You know what I really feel stupid about? Want to know my biggest surprise? That when I was 7 years old, someone gave me Giants pajamas. And I guess part of me as a fan, I had a winning week going into Sunday night games, so I didn't want to bet against my Giants because, my family was at the game, my friends were at the game. Yeah, because I'm such a putz. So the biggest surprise for me is that my underoos stopped me from freaking betting Dallas Cowboys, which I knew were going to bash the shit out of the Giants last night.
If the Jets don't show up tonight, Jimmy Hoffa may not be the only thing buried under MetLife Stadium. If the Jets...
That's funny.
Oh my God, that was so brutal. I mean, that's obviously a big surprise. I mean, 40-0. I mean, that has to be obviously a surprise of week 1. Obviously, you talked about Green Bay and the quarterback getting a lot of love, no pun intended there, and they still own Chicago no matter who's at quarterback. Clearly, Denver, they try the onside kick and obviously end up losing the game. Sean Payton loses in his opener 17-16. Tua looked great, 466 yards. Miami gets a real dog of a win in Los Angeles against the Chargers. We talked about the New England game, and we talked about the Rams, obviously always beating Seattle and Dallas. So that's pretty much anything else.
Stafford looked good, man. Stafford looked like a legit top 10 quarterback. He looked outstanding. So no, really nothing else. We want to keep them brief and short, especially as the season goes on. We'll become more and more long-winded. Again, we got a lot of views on social media, which we're grateful for, and the site's not completely done. Wagerweekly.com. We're going to ask guys to go over there, sign up. We're not charging money. We just want to build the channel. We want to build a community. I already met one guy who was a complete asshat, but good handicapper. He had a really good record this week. He's turned out to be a nice guy after, he started out the way most customers start out as complete pricks, and then you talk to them like they're human, and next thing you know, they're nice guys deep down. But we're trying to build a community of people who know what they're talking about. And if you're real strong, you're real good at what you do, we're going to happily put you up on the site, and you can give you a blog area where you can put your picks up. And, if you wanted to create your own site, you can. If you want to sell your picks, God bless. We're not going to be doing that on this page for a while. We're going to probably just keep it like this for a while, and down the road, if people want to get involved somehow, some way, we'll do that. But in the meantime, now just want to build the audience and just share every pick we got, and feel pretty good about it all.
All right, very good. We already have a Monday breakdown up, available on the site, and that will remain. But anything else you want to add in, obviously, to anything else you've caught since yesterday's action, since we recorded that on tonight's game?
No, not really. Nothing in particular has changed. I do think that, we're going to see a Jet team that's got absolutely everything to play for. I believe we're going to see a Jet team that was extremely motivated. I think they're going to come out like this is their white whale. That all these kids are so thrilled to have, Rodgers, who's so charismatic and cool in that locker room. The coach is a natural born leader. And you see, I think they'll be overhyped and overvalued after they win this week, and we'll go against them in Dallas the following week. And then I think the Bills will be shocked losing tonight, and I think they're going to absolutely eviscerate Las Vegas, who won last week. So that's why I think this game script will go out. And but I want guys to stay in touch. Wednesday with D, maybe we could put up a couple of games on Wednesday. Thursday, we'll put up a Thursday night game and a couple games for Sunday. And then Friday, we'll round it out, and we'll just keep pumping out live content and keep asking people to sign up and share their opinions. So, and we really appreciate everyone.
Yeah, Minnesota and Philly on Thursday. You're already maybe starting to see the overreaction to what the eye saw last. Philly opens at 7, has now moved to 7.5 in some places against Minnesota that we just talked about. And so we'll see as we get closer to that game what we think. But all right, that's it. Paul Nolan. Again, our Monday breakdown is on the website, wagerweekly.com. So check out our breakdown for tonight's game. Enjoy the game on your first Monday night. Should be a good one, like we said. Let's hope the Jets show up a little more than what happened last night there. Because boy,
Kukla, Fran, and Ollie would show up a better fight than the Giants did last night.
Not to dwell on it, but I hear the coach after the game, and someone says to him, was it an effort thing? He's like, oh no, the effort was great. We don't not show up with effort. We don't not show up like that. It was just all execution. Hey, buddy, to me, this is a huge reflection on you as the coach. If it's not, how can it not be effort and be prepared?
Yeah.
Like what are you talking about?
They went down the field and then they shit the bed at the goal line, and then the false start, and then the bad snap, and then the blocked field goal, run back for a touchdown, and then they quit. What are you talking about?
And then the out to Saquon, he can't catch the ball, pops up, takes it the other way for 6.
They got ragdolled on the D-line. Look,
they looked like they thought they were playing week 2 of the preseason game.
Danny Jones was getting hit on a 2-step drop pop pass. There was one play. It was a simple, one-step drop to a pop pass to not Waller, Edinger, and he was had someone in his face on a pop pass. So
yeah,
they just got eviscerated. It was just an absolute embarrassment.
Yeah, well, you don't want to get ahead of yourself, but that game looked like a whole lot more than just kind of week 1 jitters to me. That looked like there's problems everywhere with that team.
Slick Rick gave me the business during that game, so we'll talk about him. Maybe we'll get him on here one of these days.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Paul Nolan, enjoy the game yourself. Enjoy the game, everybody, and make sure you're here every Monday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And soon enough, it'll be Tuesday and Wednesday, too, for college football, 7 days a week. That's what you do when you're in this business. Right here, wagerweekly.com. Enjoy your Monday night game, everybody. We'll see you back here on Wednesday.